Here we are again in my office. Did this weird thing when I pushed the record button. It said recording in process. Don't know what that means. Might have messed up somehow. I guess we'll see. Here I am in my battle vest in front of my new microphone, talking to you again. I have my woman in the corner. There goes our lighting. So one of the things I want to talk about today is my wife put out a video, not this week, but last week, called Marrow, and I'm gonna put it in the links below. Usually what happens when she does a video, and when I do a video, is we record it and then we edit it together. With the last 2 weeks, I haven't been able to edit with her. So I had heard Marrow before, but I didn't see what she was putting out. And man, when I saw it, it was insane. It was like, I've always likened her work to rapping instead of writing poetry. And this was like speed rapping, like, you know, Tech Nine and Rap God kind of speed rapping. It was beautiful. It was amazing. So I'd like for you to look at it. I know she's my wife. I've got to say that her work is beautiful, but in this particular instance, it blew me away. I've been watching it like, anyway, I want you to see it. So please check it out. It's going to be in the description below. It'll be called Hairbrush Poetry Jam Marrow. She when she was a little kid, she's a little girl. She used to sing into her hairbrush with her sisters. They'd sing various songs. Cyndi Lauper, stuff like that. Anyway, I guess it's a common thing for girls to do. Well, her channel is based around that kind of attitude. She's in her room in a robe, her poetry robe, speaking into her hairbrush and letting you know what's going on in her mind. It's absolutely amazing. I really want you to check it out. So I'm going to stop plugging that and get on with what we were supposed to talk about today. First of all, last time I showed you a video of a section of the wall in my office. So it's right up against, I'm looking at that wall right now. There's a door right in front of me, a closet door right in front of me, and then this section of the wall is what you saw. There's a skull with a raven hanging from it. It's pretty cool. Difficult to get the raven to keep showing. A lot of times it flips over because it's hanging from a string. There is a quote that really helped me get through a lot of the therapy and stuff that I had to go through, about withstanding a storm is stronger than the storm itself. Then there was a black and white picture that was taken by a guy named Anthony Powers. And it's a black and white picture of the bridge. If you know my work at all, if you know anything about my personal life, you know that the bridge is a magical place for me. And I'll probably get to talking about that at some point in this show. But that is probably my favorite picture that's ever been taken of the bridge. Above that, we have the Eye of Horus. Next to that, we have a griffin. This is a creature that has the body of a lion, the wings of an eagle, and the head of a eagle. It's an ancient symbol. actually comes from the Middle East. Griffins used to attack men riding horses in this one particular area, in this cliff area. I'm pretty sure that's exactly where the legend comes from. Above that, I had a kind of reminder. There's 6 members of the Colon Collective, a group of wizards from my world, and each one of them takes guardianship over a certain world itself. We've got the Vault, the World of Man, the Veil, the Hell, Purgatory, and Dimlot, which is the world of shadows. And each one of the members has their own world to look over. And so you saw that. There is a, it's kind of weird that that's hanging there. I never really thought of that. It's actually a spoon holder for when you're cooking. Like, you put dirty spoons on it so that you can keep stirring and stuff. There is actually a spoon holder. Anyway, it's from Vegas. Was given to me by my mother-in-law. It's got a sugar skull on it, and then the word ransack, which we talked about last season. There's words framed all over my world, all over my desk that, oh, not my desk, all over my office, that are words that I really like, and ransack is one of them. So that's what you saw. Okay, I'm gonna show you my desk right now. Okay. The thing I want to talk about the most is I wrote this quote, and usually everything that I write on my blotter is just information that I don't want to forget. In this particular instance, though, I wrote it in black magic marker. I was listening to Joaquin Phoenix's Best Actor acceptance speech. It's amazing. I'll link it down below. It's fantastic. You have to read it. Yeah, you have to watch it. Anyway, in that, he says that his brother wrote a lyric once. And I think that, I could be wrong, but I think that the brother he's talking about is River Phoenix. River Phoenix is somebody you should look into. He's amazing. Died a tragic death. Anyway, one of the lines is, "Run to the rescue with love, and peace will follow." As soon as I heard it, I wrote it down. Run to the rescue with love. And peace will follow. It really spoke to me. I've been thinking a lot about the ramifications of it. I want to share it with you. I'm gonna print it in the description below so that you can look at it a little bit and maybe get an idea of what it might say to you and what it says, and maybe you can understand how it's speaking to me. Okay, so this season we're reading, I'll be reading pieces from my autobiography from a section that comes after Guardians War. If you want to know about Guardians War, there is a series of blogs on my blog called Guardians War. I'm going to link that below too. Man, and the link, the description's really filling up. I'm going to link that below too. And you can catch up. I talked about this before, but I'm going to say it anyway. I've been releasing what I'm calling blog blasts, which are just a series every 2 hours and 15 minutes to 2.5 hours apart that tell the story of a section of my blog. I think it's the best way to experience my blog. But this is leading up to that. Anyway, that's going to be what we're doing this season. We're looking at the section that comes after Guardians War. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Guardians War. Basically what happened, what I found out was that my brother was molesting children, and I called the authorities on him. And with my DID and with the aggression that I was getting from my family for having made that move, you have a section of my life that was extremely destructive and extremely damaging. And I barely survived it. And when I did survive it, I lost everything. I lost my college career. I lost the love of my life. I lost my family, my entire family, and my home. I was homeless and sleeping on the couch. So basically, that was Guardians War. And this is how my life got put back together after Guardians War. So anyway, I'm gonna pull up the reading and get ready. And then I'm gonna come forward and read the you could call it a blog, I guess. You could call it a chapter from my autobiography. You could call it a short story. It's nebulous. Call it whatever you want in order to help yourself understand it. But I'm gonna look it up and have it up here, and then we're gonna read it. All right. She told me recording was in progress again. I guess the software changed since last time I used it. Okay, so this week we're looking at a chapter called Urgent. One of the most important chapters in the book, although it may not seem like it. If you think about the ramifications of what happened because of this chapter, you'll see that this is an extremely important moment in my life. This happens in 2001. The chapter, as I said before, is called Urgent. Here we go. I lived with Job in the apartment he shared with Anton for about a month before they moved into the pink house. They were both friends of mine from Kentwood dorm. They had both allowed themselves to fail out. When you have minds as sharp and as dangerous as Job and Anton, the only way you're going to fail out of college is if you let yourself do it. Both of them had become addicts, and they had lost their place in the school. Kentwood, there was a front porch, a place for everyone to gather and hang out. This is where you stopped on your way to class, on your way to your room. This was the catch-all where you could find yourself between no one and about 20 people at different times. Job and Anton became addicted to the front porch. Chairs and tables and a cafeteria at the door. Chairs and tables and a cafeteria at the dorm and the rooms upstairs. They had no reason to go anywhere else. They hung out together and waited for others to come join them. They were there from morning to morning, and they did nothing else. When they dropped out, they got jobs and an apartment, and I ended up living with them. You'll find out how. Don't get impatient. I'm trying to do a thing here. Anyway, everything was great until Anton got tired of me living with them. We were at the pink house by this time, and he had a room. Job had a room, and I was on the futon in the living room. Things became more and more intense between Anton and I, and they were nearing a boiling point. At this time, Anton had stopped paying his rent, and the house was owned by Job, so things were heating up. Anton kept yelling that I wasn't cleaning up his messes or any messes at all. The therapy thing was growing in intensity. Job said he was not throwing me out no matter what, and Anton was ready to strangle me in my sleep. I was taking I was talking about it one day in therapy, and Stephen snapped out of it as if in a haze. You moved out of the house with Becca, he said. Just wait. I told you. We'll get there. Be patient. Yeah, I did. Do you pay rent at this new place you're at? He said. How could I? Have no job. I have no money. I have no way to pay for my own food. I laughed and shook my head. If Joe gets frustrated with me, I'm out. I don't know where I would go. Stephen shook his head. Your body comes first, head second. Excuse me? I said, your body comes first. As you stand now, you're basically homeless. What? I said. You have no way of taking care of yourself. You can't put a roof over your head, food in your stomach. The most important thing is that we see to those before we see to your mental health. I'm setting you up with an aide. We're going to straighten you out. He made a phone call. Urgent was a small woman with tan skin and dark hair. She was friendly and driven, and she had her job nailed. She took me out of the house and we went to a building not far from my house. We sat at a table with a very large room, and she pulled out a brown leather folder and opened it. What do you need? She asked. I looked at her for a few moments before I smiled and leaned back in my chair. Can you explain what it is you do? She nodded. Certainly. I am a caseworker. I hook people with needs up with services that can help them out of precarious situations they find themselves in. I will be your emergency caseworker, for lack of a better word. I will get us started, and when I feel you are ready, I will hand you off to a more long-term service worker. I leaned forward and looked across the table at her. What kind of services are you talking about? Government housing, food stamps, Medicaid, Medicare, hospital care, psychiatric care. I can get you a home and I can help you feed yourself, she said. I leaned back, shaking my head. I don't want to live on a couch. Few people would choose that if they had other options. Job is fantastic, but Anton is falling deeply into hate of me, and that will break off soon. What do you think you will need from me? Urgent asked. In the end, it was all of it. Housing papers needed to be filled out. Food stamp applications needed to be filled out. She would spend hours filling out paperwork for disability. We spent hours sitting in a free clinic so that I could get my meds for my bipolar, which she was appalled to find out I was not being treated for. We got Medicaid. We got medical treatment. She worked hard and we met every week, at least once. And when she was done with me, I had food. I had a grant that gave me $75 a month to live on, which I know doesn't sound like much, but I'm frugal when I need to be. I made it work. Urgent gave me a chance at a situation where I could stand on my own. I had not had an apartment of my own since I came to Springfield. I always had a roommate or lived in a dorm. The idea of having my own living space again was intoxicating. One day after we met for about 2 months, she took me into the same room and in it sat a tall, beautiful blonde woman with a kind face and impeccable hair. I was set in front of her and Urgent motioned to me and said, Jesse, I would like you to meet Sunshine. I shook her hand and I smiled. She smiled too. We knew each other. I'd gone to visit Ty and Bravo at college campus years ago, and there'd been a party with Sunshine. We played spin the bottle. I kissed every guy and every girl. I didn't remember it very well, but it meant nothing to me now. She was an ally. And the fact that I already knew her gave me hope that I had never had with Urgent. It's nice to meet you, Sunshine, I said. Can't wait to work with you, Jesse. Urgent gave me a chance. She set me down the path that allowed me to heal in private and in safety. She was tireless in her work ethic and every way is a warrior for good. I will not forget her, and I will always love her. Sunshine became an ally for life. She's a sister to me. We're going to see a lot of her. She's a big deal. She saved my life and gave me one. She was a guiding force for good. And she was Shade's first friend. My love for her is boundless and never wavering. I was separated from her in 2003. She had a kid and quit being a caseworker. When she was leaving, I asked her how we were going to stay in touch. She squeezed my hand and said, we have found each other twice. If we're meant to be friends, we will find each other again. 16 years later, I was at a book signing in Kimberling City, and I was approached by Sunshine. She's an agent. She's a co-author for young adult book. I hugged her. I told her I loved her, and we reconnected. She watches me from afar. I know that when I need her, she will be there. I'm going to show you how amazing she is and why I dedicated this book to her. All right. So that was urgent. We're going to talk about that. I think it's pretty straightforward, but we're going to talk about that for a little while. And then I'm going to tell you a few more things that I've figured out about the Bramble situation that is ongoing and continuing constantly. We're going to talk about that. And I'm going to give you an update as to what I'm doing about that. Anyway, yeah, so that was urgent. Let me regroup and I will come back and we'll talk about it. All right. What do I remember about Urgence? I remember that she was short, she was small, she was dark skinned. She reminded me of my friend Ames, only slightly darker skinned. She was very smart. And there was a free hospital where doctors donated their time. It's downtown Springfield. I'm going to find the name of the place, link it down there, because I think that the name of the place is important. They might have a website, I don't know. If they do, I'll link it down there for people who need help that don't have the money. So we would go and, it's first come, first serve, and you have to wait until your name is called. So on the days when we went to this place, I would sit with her for 4 and 5 hours at a time just to see a doctor, give them my diagnosis as bipolar, and they would give me bipolar meds. Could you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go check it out.
There's a toilet running upstairs. A lot of times what happens is we have a very long chain and it gets caught in the little cap thing. So it'll run for a while and turn off and then run for a while. Anyway, you don't need to know about any of that. Becca's going to check it out. So we would sit in that hospital in uncomfortable chairs, staring at nothing and talking for hours at a time. She just let me go on, and I talked about Guardians of War, and I talked about the streets of Milwaukee, where I'm from. You might not think gang when you think Milwaukee. I have a friend, a fantasy friend. I'm not gonna say her name, but when she found out that I was writing my autobiography and that I was talking about the gangs in Milwaukee, she was like, "Gangs in Milwaukee, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, gangs in Milwaukee." And she was like, "Oh, sorry." She's a fantasy writer. She immediately walked back from that. Anyway, I talked about growing up in the inner city of Milwaukee. I talked about all of that stuff, and she just listened. She never interrupted me. Tried to talk to me about other things. She never made me think that I wasn't worth listening to. She wanted to know everything that I had to tell her. Good conversationalist. we would go into the doctor's office that they had there, and we would be in there for 5 minutes. He'd hear what we needed, write us a prescription, and send us on our way. But we would be there all day. She was very professional with me. Never took it outside of that. I remember I was with her on 9/11/2001, and we were driving around trying to get stuff done. Everybody was in front of their television, and she asked if I wanted to talk about it. So we talked about 9/11 for a while. My theories and thoughts on that tragedy have changed over time. We're not gonna get into it. But I was with her that day. It felt like I had a friend in her. It felt like she treated me special, but I don't know, because of course I didn't know how she treated everybody else. I remember at one point she called me intelligent and lucid. I assume that she didn't deal with that very often. I asked her about her life. She was very quiet about her life. She would tell me little things that really didn't tell me much. Just so that she could share, but at the same time not give too much of her life away. Of course, she doesn't want me in her life, which I completely understand. So she'd tell me about backyard barbecues. She'd tell me about, I think her husband was working on a project car. We talked about that kind of stuff with her. I know she had a husband. I know she lived in a different city, and that she had a commute. I don't remember her name. Of course, I wouldn't say it here if I did, but I don't remember her name. There's zero way that I can get a hold of her and tell her how much she meant to me, except through this video and through my autobiography. So I hope that Urgent sees this. She probably won't, but I hope that Urgent sees this. And I hope that she finds out about the autobiography when it comes out. It's gonna, of course, it talks a lot about the mental health industry. So it might get back to her. And maybe she will find out. Maybe she'll know how I felt about her and how much hope she gave me. When I was done with her for like, I think 3 weeks, 2 weeks after I was done with her, I got my food stamps. I was on food stamps for the very smallest amount of time that I could be. As soon as me and Becca started living together, I took myself off. I was on food. She got me on food stamps, which was a big deal because before then, I had no way to feed myself except Job, and he would buy me food. This way, I could put food in the house, and people could, and me and Job could eat off of that food, and I was somehow paying my way. I remember the first thing I did when I got food stamps is I got everything I would need to build this massive salad. Living, you might not know this, but living with another 20 something guy, you don't eat a lot of salad. There was a part of me that was like dying for the vegetable overload. So made a salad, and it was in a huge bowl, made a big salad. I ate off of it like 3 times, and then I left it in the refrigerator and it went bad, and then I ignored it and it got real bad. And I'm not going to describe to you what it looked like when we finally poured it out of the bowl. But I remember that. I remember at the time they gave you $200, and now they've, the government has cut that back so much. I don't know how much food stamps for a single person pays out now, but last time I heard it wasn't enough. I was asked today if I was a liberal, a conservative, or a moderate. I'm not going to get into politics here, but what I will tell you is that I have used the system because I needed it. I've used the system. We're talking about it right now. And as somebody who now has a little bit of money and will one day have much more money, I can tell you that I'm a big supporter. I want people that need food stamps to live off food stamps. I want people that need these services to get them. And so, yeah. Everybody deserves to eat, whether they can afford to feed themselves or not. That's how I feel. I smoked at the time. Think about that for a minute. I was taking food stamps from the government and I smoked. So money that could have been going towards food was going towards cigarettes. I wasn't buying my cigarettes. Joe bought my cigarettes. But the message doesn't change. There is a argument being had right now about people that need food stamps, people that need government aid, and what they should have and what they shouldn't have. What I know is that the cigarettes helped me get through the day. The food stamps helped me too. God, I'm trying to find out exactly how I want to say this. The people who are in need often have to have other things in their life just to get them through. So, like, I hear a lot about how people that are on food stamps shouldn't have Xboxes. We'll use that as an example. But they really shouldn't, because they work so hard and their life is so punishing and unforgiving that they need something to take their mind off of it. Cigarettes were that way with me. And if I didn't have the smoke, it did have an effect on my mood. Having some kind of extra will get you through the hardest points of your life. So asking somebody who needs help with food stamps to have no other extras in their life it's not realistic and it's not humane. All right. That's as far into government and politics as you're ever going to see me get. What I can tell you is that she urgent really helped me. And she gave me a certain amount of power to see to my own welfare. Now, earlier in this video, I should have done this, but I didn't do it. What I realized is that I was going to do it and then clip it to earlier in the video, but it hasn't been sitting right here. I usually, on this season, I'm going to show you things from my office. And usually I will do that in the beginning of the video and then leave it here for you to look at for the rest of the video. I didn't do that, and I can't just fudge that because it's supposed to be sitting right here. I'm gonna try to do better. But for now, feel free to laugh at me for not doing my video correctly. Becca's gonna bring me a small statue. I'm gonna tell you the story behind it. Okay. This is my ram. Okay. Don't think goat. I know a lot of you are aware of my Goats of Brestian song that I wrote, that I perform every year. This dates way before that. For our 8th anniversary, and this year we'll be celebrating our 16th. Yeah, she nodded.
Yep.
She nodded, so I'm not in trouble. This year we'll be celebrating our 16th, but for our 8th wedding anniversary, we went to the resort that we had our reception at. And we got a room, and we walked around all the shops and did all the stuff. We were there for an entire weekend. It was amazing just to revisit that place, and I'm hoping that we can find a way to do that this year. Because I'd like to go back to that place every 8 years. 8. I don't know why 8. But there's some significance to it. We'll find later. Anyway, we were in a shop and we found this, and I bought it. It's an extra hard wood. I forget what they call it. They might call it ironwood. I might be making that up. It's a very extra hard wood. And the reason that I got it is because at the time I was working on a book that was called Onslaught of Madness. I had just finished it. Or I had written it a couple months earlier. I'd finished it a couple months earlier. And basically in that book, there's a scene with shape changers. And there's a number of different kinds of shape changers. There's bears, panthers, wolves, boar, and ram. So I want you to try to imagine a man standing in front of you. He is 7 feet tall, slender but wide in the shoulders. He has a ram's horns that are maybe 4 feet across, and a ram's head. In the book, they are really devastating forces. And at one point, somebody's down on the ground and they're about to be attacked by this enemy soldier. And the enemy soldier is walking up to them, and two of these ram warriors meet in the middle, right on the enemy soldier's like upper torso. It's at a full dead run. It's an insane scene. So that's why I bought the ram. I'm gonna leave him here for the remainder of the video, which will not be long. But I wanted to show you this particular piece of my office right now. And yeah, I'm gonna take another break, and then I'll give you an update on the Bramble situation. Okay, so here I am again to talk about Bramble. There's been a couple of things that we figured out. First of all, I'd like to tell you that in order to prepare myself for this section of the video, I watched a couple of videos from YouTube. This movie out there called Warrior. I don't know how much information you have about it. But Warrior is about two brothers that end up in the octagon together. Mixed martial arts. One of those brothers is played by Tom Hardy, which he's amazing. I'm a huge Hardy fan. He could have gone just straight action, but he ends up taking roles that require acting ability. Look for Peaky Blinders and the character he plays called Alfie, and the amazing things he does with that character. He's an actor. He's not an action hero. Anyway, I don't know why I'm drawn to this video. I find myself watching it at least 3 times a day. It's a snippet from the video where he is working out in a gym. He's a nobody. There's a guy who's famous in that gym, and he ends up fighting that guy. And then the second video I watch at least 2 times a day, usually 3, is when they actually meet in the octagon. I'm going to link both videos below. I don't know why I think about, every time I think about Bramble, I watch those videos, except to tell you that I feel like I'm at war. At war with a certain understanding of myself that came with being Char's son. At war with a family that covered it up for so long that I might not have been Char's son. At war with an idea that that's the legacy I belong to. You guys know so much about the whole thing, the whole situation. I don't want to go over it all again. To do so would be to insult everybody who's watched everything from episode 4 into now. What I will tell you is that we figured a couple of things out. One is that the big one is that Bramble did not get married until 7 months after I turned 18. That means nothing. It really doesn't. It doesn't mean anything. It's 100% a coincidence, except when he did get married, he was over 40. He got married late. Bramble's not the kind of guy that needs to search for a woman. So he waited. That's what I think happened. That's a lot of speculation. That's an awful lot of speculation. But I think he waited. I think he waited until I was 18. Expected my mom to tell me by that time. Expected Rose to tell me by that time that I was his son. And that's never happened. I don't know if he was waiting for her to come back. I really don't. He from what we know, he had a pretty rough life. After my mom left him. I'm not going to get into it. It's not something I think any of you need to know. From what I could see, something was eating that man alive. So I have that. I have that he didn't get married until 7 months after I turned 18, which, like I said, means nothing, but is suspicious. And there was another piece. What was the other thing we figured out? There was another piece of this puzzle that we figured out. What I know is that the Queen of Cats, which is my aunt, the Queen of Cats got a hold of us. I posted a very emotional post about this whole thing. And I got a lot of people coming out of nowhere to talk to me about it. People, the last people you expect will come to your aid when you mention something that nobody expects you to mention. So a lot of people came out of nowhere to talk to me about this. But one of the people that got in touch with me was the Queen of Cats. She is my aunt. Her daughter in my autobiography, one of her daughters in my autobiography is called Tigress, and the other one Lioness. So I gave her the name, the Queen of Cats. She called me. She wanted to talk to me. I was extremely emotional at the time. I didn't think that I would be able to have a conversation with anybody about anything, but I talked to her. What she told me was that Char was definitely out of the state. She said that they were working during my childbirth. They were working with the Red Cross, and the Red Cross was calling him and giving him updates and sending him updates about my birth and letting him know exactly what was happening while I was being born. So he for sure was not in the city. What we think is that he was in Germany. He was stationed, follow me on this. He's stationed in Germany. My mom is living with her parents and my sister, Les. She's cleaning their house. She's taking care of Les. She's alone for most of the day. And then all of a sudden, she leaves and she goes to Germany. Maybe that was a plan all along, or maybe she just decided she missed her husband and she took off to do that. She was there for a few more months, and then she came back to live with my grandparents while she was pregnant. He went to Georgia. I think his tour in Germany was just a year long. He goes to Georgia. He's in Georgia when I'm born. My mom's living at her parents' house in Milwaukee. So she's living with her parents in Milwaukee for I don't know how long. Then she moves to Germany for a couple of months. She moves back with her parents in Milwaukee. Well, he goes to Georgia, and then she has me. I don't know. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe nothing. But if during those days she had alone, she was spending time with Bramble, she may have gone to Germany because she found out she was pregnant. I do know that when she got to Germany, the legend says that she slept for 2 weeks. Now, the reason she explains this to me is that Les was up at nights and she was working on cleaning the house during the day. My grandparents' house during the day when she lived in Milwaukee. So she was up around the clock. That's what she told me. That's what I bought for years and years and years. But she got on the plane, she flew to Germany, and then she was in bed for 2 weeks. It sounds like depression to me. It could very well be that the reason she was in bed for 2 weeks in Germany is because she realized she was carrying Bramble's son and she would never be able to let him live with them. She was carrying Bramble's son and she would never be with Bramble. She was stuck with Char. And now she is half a world away. Anyway, the other information that I have with you on the Bramble situation is that I've lost my mind. I can't do nothing anymore. We're waiting for Ancestry.com to get in touch with us, and I can't not do anything. I can't sit around anymore. We found out about this beginning to middle of February, and it's taken over my entire life ever since. Yeah, you can't ask me to not do anything anymore about it. So what do I have? I have my wife. I've utilized every bit of that. I talked to her about every thought that goes through my head, and we have searched and searched and worked to build this puzzle of maybes and what haves to come up with some kind of answers. What else do I have? I have my friends, and I've relied on my friends. I've talked to friends. I've let them know stuff. They've, what else do I have? I have alcohol. to kind of get me over the rough spots. Nobody likes that I'm drinking while I'm dealing with this problem. Nobody likes that. You don't have to like that. Nobody likes that. I hear a lot about it. And what do I have? I have my kids. I have my family. I rely on them. But my greatest weapon against painful times is writing. So I have begun to write about this situation. I'm 10 chapters into a new section of my autobiography. I think it's 68 pages. I think it's 68 pages. 68 pages of story about Bramble. I'm attacking it from all different angles, building and slowly building one wall after the next, one pillar after the next, until I can show the whole structure. It's been 4 days and I've written 68 pages. They're not huge days, but I'm getting a lot done. I have a list of chapters that I want to write, but I don't know for sure that that will be the only things in those chapters. I'm telling the story. Telling a story that you know and a little that you don't. I'm trying to show the world the story of Bramble and Jesse. Because I will remind you of this, and this is what I'm going to leave us on. I will remind you of this. I mentioned it in the last video, but this is what I'm holding on to. Char's mother was full-blooded Native American, or at the very least half-blood. I know that from stories that I've heard and from the woman that I picture in my mind and have pictured in my mind all of my life when I picture that woman. Conversation with Char and with Rose confirm this. Minimum, I should have 1/8 of my blood being Native American. And when 23andMe got in touch with us, gave us their findings, I had 0. I was 100% Northern European with 0.7% being Eastern Bloc. But there is no mention of Native American at all. That's what I'm holding on to. That's what I'm focusing on. We still have between a week and 3 weeks before we hear back from Ancestry. And they might not have any answers for us. But for now, the proof that I have that I am not Char's son is in the blood. It's in the scientific tests that were done on my DNA. And the fact that there's no Native American in me. So that's what I have for you today. There is an entire list of links for you to look at, for you to check out if you want to know more. really look at Marrow, the poem that my wife put together and posted on her channel. Really look at that because it's really inspiring and it's really going to blow your mind. It's about a time when she stood inside of a waterfall. Take a look at it, listen to it, and I think you're gonna get something out of that. Anyway, okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. Do all the things, and I will see you next week. Bye.